Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Behind the Pen, the podcast brought to you by the VTF Collective. We are a faith driven organization where authors share their stories, inspiration, and publishing journeys. I'm your host, Coach Kesha, and tonight we'll be exploring identity, courage, and the power of sharing your truth. Tonight's special guest is a speaker, blogger, and author whose book, Discovering Your Identity, a Rebirth from Interracial Struggle, tells a story, the powerful story of growing up between cultures, finding her voice, and embracing her unique identity as a South Asian Italian woman. Please help me welcome tonight's special guest.
Hi,
Hello, hello, how are you?
I'm good and you?
Good, good. I'm so happy that you're on the podcast tonight. Can you just give us a quick introduction?
For sure. So my name is Urmi Hossain. I am based in Montreal. Like you mentioned, I'm a self-published author, speaker, mentor, YouTuber, blogger, and also new in the podcast world. I have recently launched my first podcast called Stories Beyond Borders, and I'm also a big advocate of women's empowerment. I'm the co-chair of the organization Women in Leadership for the Montreal chapter.
Nice. Well, I am super excited to have you on. You're one of our first quote unquote international authors that we're interviewing. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast tonight. Um, we're just going to jump right in. We're going to get started with a couple kind of icebreaker questions.
Oh.
So you lived in Italy,
Mhm.
um, have Bengali roots, and you now live in Canada. Which culture feels most like home to you?
The Italian one, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, if you can kind of describe your identity in three words, what would they be?
I would say I'm trying to find some fancy words, but I think I should just go with simple words. I would say original, authentic, and powerful.
Ooh, those are good. Original, authentic, and powerful. Very good, very good. What's one fun or unique tradition from your childhood that you still hold on to today?
Hmm. I would say probably drinking coffee in the morning. I know this is like something that is pretty global, but I do make my coffee in the mocha pot. I don't know if you're familiar with what I'm talking about. The
Mhm.
Italian mocha pot where you basically put the coffee and that little mocha, and then you put it on top of the stove. That's my way of drinking coffee, and I think that's the only way we should be drinking coffee. We should ban filter coffee.
I bet it tastes a lot better, probably like a richer taste to it.
Richer and also bitter, but you have to like get used to it, and it's strong. It's very strong.
That sounds like something I need right about now on those long days. A good cup of strong coffee will get you through every time, right?
Yeah.
So, your book, Discovering Your Identity, kind of dives deep into growing up as like a third culture kid. What inspired you to share that part of your story publicly?
I think I was very much inspired by another author who is based in Canada, and she's Canadian Pakistani, and I have read her book and I told myself this is it. Like as I was reading her book, I felt like she was telling my story. And I felt very much inspired by her to the point that I reached out to her and I asked her, like, how did you write this? Why did you write this? And she told me that she was going through a lot of struggles and she needed her story to be out there, and she needed to basically how to say, like, she really had to vocalize it in a way, and she wanted her story to be heard. And I felt like I could relate so much to her story. So because of that, I told myself that if she was able to do it, then I can do it too. And she explained me a little bit the process, because I always used to think that always have to go through a publisher. But honestly, nowadays I think that self-publishing, it's so accessible to everyone that I didn't need anyone in particular. I did it on my own by going to the self-publishing route. And so she was my inspiration for doing the things that I did, especially when it comes to with my book. And also when I published the book back in the days, I was being interviewed by different podcasters about my stories. And so I thought, why not have it written down somewhere? So that's how I created the book.
Absolutely. I love that. So you would say that she kind of gave you the courage to go ahead and write your own story.
That's right. That's right. And for her, it was a way to cope with her, stress, and also to also cope a little bit with the anger and the things that she was going through. And I think she saw it more as a way of journaling her thoughts, and then her journals basically just became an actual book. So she was really my inspiration.
Awesome. So, were there any challenges or painful moments or memories that came up during your writing process?
You know what? I always say that for me, writing my first book was pretty much therapeutical because it's sort of like digital journaling because you're writing down about your past, your childhood, your teenagehood in like on Google, basically on a Google Doc. And I feel like it's a beautiful experience because you're talking about your own life and you're writing it down. So you are in a way reliving those moments in your head. So for me, every single like thing that I wrote was pretty vivid in my memory. It almost felt like it just happened yesterday. So for me, it was a very beautiful experience. But when I started the whole process, I actually had to talk with one of my friends who's actually an author, and he actually published books with publisher and so forth. But he told me to read the book that it's called How to Write a Book in 30 Days. I read that book while I was on vacation, and as soon as I came back, I was very very determined, and I used to sit down every day and write like 30 minutes an hour. And for me, that was quite easy because you're talking about yourself. It's not like you're not writing a novel, you're not writing fiction. So for me, it was quite easy. But what was difficult, if I have to be honest, it was what came after when it came to like format it, come up with a cover page, edit it. I didn't know how to do any of these things, and I had to hire a freelancer to help me with that. And luckily, she was so like helpful. So she also gave me some tips along the way, like what I needed. She also told me I need like a Kindle version. Like I didn't know I needed that, so she told me you need like different versions of it. So that was quite helpful, and the fact that I had this person, it was quite helpful. Yeah.
That's awesome because we all need help along the way, and so I'm glad that you were able to find people. I always encourage writers just sit down and write, even if you carve out 30 minutes to an hour a
Yeah,
day. Just sit down and write, and then before you know it, you'll have a whole manuscript prepared for publication. So.
that's it.
Um, did writing this book or kind of journaling your thoughts and feelings, because you had a front row seat to the whole experience, nobody knows your story better than you. Did it help you heal or better understand yourself looking back?
I think it gave me a lot more awareness about the two cultures that I grew up with. I did not have too much of an awareness when I was living through that. I think, yeah, I could see, there are different things between the two cultures, but now that I have written it while I've been living in Canada, I can see how different they are, but I can also see that they have some similarities. And I think writing it helped me to also come with an answer about my own identity, because for me, finding my identity, my cultural identity, has been a struggle because I never felt like I was fit for either one. I never felt like I was enough for either one. And I saw that I always had to make a choice, choose either one. But at the end, it's not about choosing, it's about embracing. So I feel like writing it gave me a clear path to getting to my answer, which is I am Italian Bengali, rather than being just one or the other. So
Right. And I was thinking about the tension between the two cultures and how oftentimes with people who are biracial, they
Hmm.
do feel like they have to choose. They don't like have that feeling of fully belonging
Yeah,
anywhere. You fully belong in your skin,
that's it.
in your mind, and so you have to make it what it means to you. um Now you do talk about being the perfect Bengali girl. um how did you begin to kind of redefine what that meant for you?
Basically, there is this notion that I think it pertains to any single culture, which is the concept of perfection and how women are expected to be perfect in every single thing, in every single aspect of our life. And a lot of the times, it's like when we think about being perfect, it's all about ticking the box for what's considered okay by society. And uh, like thinking about it for a while, watching other women, listening to podcasts, watching other TED Talks, I came to a realization that there is no such thing as perfection. Like, where does it say that we have to like be perfect? And where does it say that we have to follow the conventional? Is it because it's coming from like generations? Is it because it's written somewhere? And it was in that moment that I realized that it's okay not to be not to be perfect. It's okay to have those scars. It's okay not to have accomplished everything in life. And I realized that a lot of the times, it's all part of the learning and growth. Like maybe you reach a certain age and you think you're going to be accomplished and this and that, but that can come after as well. And so I realized that a lot of the times it's all about enjoying the process, and it's not about doing what is expected, because then you are sacrificing yourself.
Right. And it's always such an interesting concept for me when we talk about that duality, because even in uh cultures like African American cultures, there's like that kind of conflict that you find with what's perfect and what's not.
Hmm.
Because even in the subculture, there's that mentality to be perfect, and then we find ourselves judging each other. So that duality is always, kind of interesting to watch play out in different cultures, especially, with someone with a background like yours. Um, what advice would you give to a young woman who's trying to kind of balance those cultural expectations and find personal freedom at the same time?
I always say my advice would be basically do not let other people's expectation or opinions to dictate your life, because that comes with a lot of I want to say suffering. Like us, we will suffer this internally because we're trying to please other people, but we're sacrificing our own happiness and we're not putting ourselves first. And I think it's okay to put yourself first, to take care of yourself before you start taking care of other people. And it's also okay to pursue your proper dreams and goals in life if you think that will basically give you self accomplishment. A lot of the times we are doing things for other people, pursuing other people's dreams because we want to make other people happy. But if you think about it, is this really bringing us any kind of happiness? And often it doesn't. And that's why I think sometimes we reach to a point that we explode and we just want to leave from everything. And I think it's okay to start little by little. I always say you can start with like small steps and see how it goes. And it's uncomfortable at the beginning. It's really uncomfortable because I think, people that maybe looked at you in a certain way will start looking at you differently, and they will think, oh, you're changed, this and that. But I don't think we have changed. It's just us believing in ourselves and living our true self.
Absolutely. No matter what your background is, ethnically, whatever, the pursuit of, happiness and
Hmm.
self-care is universal. That's a universal concept.
Yeah.
So, um, what's something that, whether it was when you were writing it or looking back on the writing process, that you kind of had in mind that you wanted readers to take away from your book?
I think I wanted them to feel knowledgeable about the fact that sometimes when you look at someone, you should not assume, you should not have biases. Just because I look a certain way, I don't want people to think, okay, I'm automatically associated to like certain cultures, that I speak only certain languages and so forth. But also to build a community and to bring awareness again, because I feel like there are so many people that are not necessarily sharing my same cultural background, but who have multiple cultural backgrounds, and maybe they are going through a struggle where they feel like, okay, it's not normal that I'm going through this. But my message is really to let them know that you're not alone in this journey. There are a lot more people like you. And honestly, the moment I put myself out there, I realized there are so many people like me, so many, and we all go through the same struggle. Like, we feel like we don't fit in, we feel like, we always have to choose, we don't do the work that we need to do to understand ourselves. And I think it's important. I think identity is such a big important thing about ourselves that we really have to take time to work on it. So for me, it was really to bring awareness, to educate people, and to make sure that no one was feeling alone in their own journey in finding themselves.
Absolutely. Community is definitely important, across the board. And feeling like you're not alone in whatever struggles you may be experiencing. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, you are also a mentor, a leader, a speaker, like you wear so many different hats. How does your professional journey tie into your personal mission?
So I'm very big when it comes to mentoring, very big, and very big also in like being an advocate for women's empowerment. And I think this, of course, I started it because it all comes from my own personal experiences. Like, I never had a mentor when I was growing up. I didn't have anyone that looked like me. And I felt like if we want to make a change, the change always has to start from us. And so, like, the whole thing about mentoring, it started because I wanted to be the mentor I never had. And I wanted to mentor younger generations because I think it's important to plant those seeds when they are a bit younger. And I do love mentoring women because I feel like, you get to learn so much from other women. And I also like to mentor young women as well, like in their 20s, because I always say it's not about, age, it's not about titles, it's about experiences that we have lived and the values that we can bring to each other's life. So mentoring just comes from my own personal experience, and also like everything in relation to women in leadership, it comes also due to the fact that I work in a very male dominated industry because I work in finance. And I can see how, there's a lack of representation, there is a lack of diversity, and I can see how often women really struggle with, getting a promotion, asking for a raise, asking for flexibility, you know, um, taking initiatives. And so that's why I joined like organizations such as Women in Leadership, because again, I feel like if I want to make a change, it has to start from me. And I very much enjoy doing all of these things because I always say, like, when you have different women in the same room, there is so much power. The vibe is so different.
Absolutely, I agree 100%, 100%. And so you mentioned you co-chair the Women in Leadership Montreal chapter. Prior to that position, was your perspective on empowerment different, or has it evolved since you've been in this position?
So here's the thing. I used to think that when it came to women's empowerment and the struggles that we go through as women was more based on certain countries. Like, I thought that it was a thing that only South Asian women like struggle with. Honestly, it's a global phenomenon. Unfortunately, like every single woman goes through the same struggle. And my perspective did not change. I think what happened is that it just amplified the fact that, like, there's so many women wanting the same thing. They want to, grow personally, they want to grow professionally, they want to start businesses, they want to pursue their ambitions and so forth. But they also want to have a balance as well. They want to take care of themselves, they want to talk about wellness. So it just amplified the fact that this is a bigger battle that we have to fight, and we have to do this all together. And so, like, I participate to a lot of events, like social events, where maybe there's a networking opportunity for women, and I can see the conversation is always the same. It's always the same conversation. We all really struggle. Maybe we want to speak up in a meeting, but we are just afraid people will judge us. And it's so interesting to see how everyone raises their hands for the same thing, for the same struggle. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I do. I appreciate how you mentioned that it's not just this country or that country. It's a global phenomenon, pandemic, if you will, where women just we have taken so many steps forward, but we still haven't fully arrived. Um, so I know, and I can tell that you're passionate about helping women find their voices. How would you make that practical for maybe a young 18, 20-year-old woman? What would you say to her to help her find her voice in this world today, especially if she happens to be biracial?
I would definitely say, because I'm so big on mentoring, I think it's very important to find a mentor in your surrounding, a mentor who is similar to you from a cultural point of view. Like, if you're a woman of color, then look for a mentor who's a woman of color, because you probably went through the same struggle. And I always say you don't need to, like, look into a company or into an organization to find a mentor. I have this concept called friendtor. I don't know if you know what it means, but it's a combination of friend and mentor, and that's the word
Hmm.
friendtor. And I always say you can find good mentors, even among your circle of friends, because it happened to me that I found great mentors in a lot of my friends, people that I look up to, and you can simply ask for advice on, how can I find my voice in the workplace and so forth? How can I use my power? And a lot of the time, I also say that it comes from our own self belief. Like, we really have to take time to really believe in ourselves. We actually don't do enough of it. We don't believe in our talent and what we're capable of, and so that's also quite essential. And to start small. So for a young woman who, let's say, just started to work in a company, you can start by speaking up in a meeting, for instance. You're not in a big setting, you are just in a small setting with your team, and you can simply say something if you're not happy with it, or you can have one on one if you're not happy about something. And I think it's important to raise those concerns from the beginning.
Absolutely. Now, you did mention that you are in the financial industry, which, is a male dominated industry. How have you attempted to kind of bridge the gap between, your purpose and the things that you're passionate about and your profession?
Let me tell you this. I think I'm in a very lucky position, because I feel like where I am right now, I have the chance to be my most authentic self. Like, I'm not performing a role, I'm being myself. And I think, like, when I chose to work in the industry, this was one thing that I told myself. I never want to mold myself to fit in a role. Never, never. Because I always want to stay true to myself no matter where I go. And so I feel like I'm able to be myself and bring a little bit of myself also in the workplace. And for me, that's important. Like, you never want to be someone that you don't want to be, and then you come home and you're removing that mask. Like, I think it's always important that you stay true to yourself. And I also use my workplace to talk about some important topics as well. I talk about women's empowerment. Like, I have this discussion also with my manager, and he's a male manager, so he does support me. Like he always say, I want you to advocate for yourself as well. So I do have a good support system that allows me to be who I am and be proactive, take initiatives, be myself. So in that sense, I'm quite lucky.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about the writing process itself. Now, we did talk about, as a self-published author, some of the challenges. Looking back on the writing process, what was one of the most rewarding things about getting your story out and on paper?
So the actual act of completing it, like having to complete the manuscript, I think it was quite an accomplishment, because I think a lot of the times people go around and say, "Yeah, I want to, write a book. I write a book." But I think, like, to write a book, you have to start writing a book, and I think a lot of people fail doing that. So for me, the fact that I was so committed to it and I was so determined to do it, I was actually quite surprised that I managed to do it. And it wasn't even planned. That's the other thing. Like, I did not plan it that I was going to do it. I just told myself I will do it eventually. So the fact that I one day sat down, started to write it, I was immediately quite motivated. And every single day, I would come home, 30 minutes of my time, and I would like write a chapter, and I would continue reading the chapter. And one thing that I did is that when I was writing it, I was not going back and revise it. I would just do it really, really at the end. Like, I did it after the 30 days. And that's when I started to like work a little bit about, okay, let me see if this makes sense. Let me see how I want to divide this. So for me, it was really just getting your ideas right there in a written paper. So that's the process I took when I started to write it.
That's one of the best pieces of advice that I give to a lot of authors that I come across, is that just write. Don't worry about punctuation. Don't
Yeah.
worry about, just get it out first. So that's a great strategy that you used. Now, did you have any doubt during any part of the project? Like, oh, I shouldn't do this. Nobody's going to read it. Did you experience any of that?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Unfortunately, I did. I did, because I was like, who would be interested in reading it? That's what I told myself. But then I realized that I'm not doing it because I want people to purchase it. I did it because I wanted to create it for myself, and being able to tell the world that I'm a self-published author. Like, I did it. It was my own personal accomplishment rather than thinking about the sales. Because I told myself that at the end of the day, it will always be there available for purchase. Whoever wants to read it, they're more than welcome to purchase it. But it was my own accomplishment, and that's what I thought about. It was my why for doing it. It wasn't because, oh, I want to have sales, I want to just sell it all over the world. No, it wasn't that. I think you always have to have a purpose that it's aligned with you, because if you start with the wrong motivation, then I don't think you will be able to write it.
I once heard a quote. I can't recall the gentleman's name, but he said, "Whenever you're doing what you're passionate about, profit will just be a byproduct of that. So you don't even have to focus on that. Just
Yeah,
do what you're passionate about, and those rewards will come." So,
that's it.
um, afterwards, did you struggle with any like judgment or vulnerability? Um, from any? Did you get resistance or pushback from anybody?
You know what? I actually had a lot of, and I hate to say it, I had a little bit of self-doubt and fear of judgment, because I feel like we just spoke about being like believing in ourselves, but I did have a little bit of self-doubt, because I was like, I'm putting my story out there, and I'm pretty sure that if people read it, they might have comments about it. Like, I'm talking about my own struggles. Some people even think, they were also telling me, oh, why did you write a book about your identity? What's so hard about it? But then I realized that not everyone can relate to my story. And I got those comments, and I didn't like them. And right after I published it, I realized that, not everyone will read it. Some people might have something to say about it. And lucky enough, or I would say the people who supported me the most were actually my friends that I talk about in the book, my Italian friends. And so that was quite encouraging and supportive. And they were actually surprised that I wrote the book, because they were like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were writing a book." But I didn't go around and tell the world that I was doing it, because I believe in the evil eye, and I like to do things and have them completed, and then I talk about it. Like, I don't talk about it while I'm doing it, because I feel like then I would stop myself from doing it. So I did get myself quite vulnerable, and not everyone till this days, not everyone knows that I have self-published the book, because it's not that I'm afraid of people's judgment. I know that no matter what I do, people will have something to say. So at least now I gave them something to talk about. But I told myself that this was my objective. I should not let people's opinions to change my ideas.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, how have readers responded positively to your story? Have you heard people who say it changed the way they saw themselves?
So a lot of the people who read my book were actually some of my high school friends, and some of them are mentioned in the book. And they felt it was quite refreshing. It was quite refreshing because they were like, "Damn, like you're talking about us, and we're also reliving those moments with you." And for other people, it was quite educational, because I think not everyone is aware of the differences, and especially because I'm talking about it from a woman's perspective. So I feel like if you are talking about it from a woman's perspective, you live life differently. And so for some people, it was quite new, but they also realized that it's also the reality of many people nowadays. So it just helped them to be more aware, which was also my objective from the beginning.
That's good. That's good. How do you or how did you anticipate how this book would contribute to conversations about identity and diversity?
So when I have self-published it and I basically put it out there, to tell you the truth, I did not have a direction. I just did not have a direction. I was like, I have it there, but I wasn't quite sure who I was targeting. Like, I think I just wanted everyone to pick it up and read it. But because I volunteer for so many organizations, and a lot of them are of South Asian heritage, I started to talk about it with them. And I was like, you know what, maybe you want to mention my book to some of the people in your group, because I think it might help someone, as someone who may be struggling with identity, someone who's a third culture kid, maybe someone who is wondering if this is normal, how they're feeling. So that's such that I was going with. And yeah, like, even when we talk about the marketing part, like, I think that was one thing that I have learned, is that when we are still publishing a book, you have to do heavy marketing, which I didn't know about before. Like, I could see how other authors were doing it, but sometimes I was like, I don't know what they're doing this much of like marketing. But only afterwards it clicked that, you write the book and everything, but the heavy part is done through the marketing, and you really need to go hard with that. Like, you have to talk about it everywhere, you have to promote it everywhere, you need to, like, talk about it on Instagram, all the different social media links. And only after I realized that was I would say, the weak part of my whole writing, like, not writing process, but my whole self-publishing process.
Yeah, that's the one thing about self-publishing. You have to do all of that footwork yourself. And once you gain momentum, then you got to work even harder to keep the momentum. Um,
Yeah, and that's the other thing I noticed as well, is that when I first saw published it, I could see that the peak with the sales, like, people would buy it, but as soon as you, like, stop talking about it, it just goes flat. It just goes flat. It's literally like that, the whole profit chart, literally. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've written 20 books, and it's the same with every book. And even though I've been doing it so long, it's like, you get that roller coaster, those peaks
yeah.
and valleys. So Absolutely. You have to just stay on it hard. And it gets harder the more books you have because it's like, which one am I talking about now?
That's it.
So
No, no, for sure, for sure. And yeah, marketing is, I would say, is probably the most challenging part with self-publishing. Very challenging.
absolutely. So what kind of encouragement would you give to generations to come? Because it's not as if uh biracial conversations, identity conversations, diversity conversations are going to come to a near end.
Yeah.
What about if there's a young girl, maybe in her teenage years, what would you say to her, or what kind of message would you have for generations to come?
So when it comes to conversation like this, I think that if someone is internally struggling with it, it's important to talk about it. And one thing that I did that I think other people should do is to have open dialogues about it, but have it with trusted people, people that are very similar to you. Because for me, I remember I would talk about this with several people, but not everyone would understand what I was going through. Like I felt that having, two cultural identity was actually my weakness. And then I spoke about this with another friend of mine who has also multiple cultural identities, and she helped me to see this more like my strength. She was like, the fact that you have two identities, it just means that you can speak, two languages. It means that you carry two cultures. It means that you carry two traditions, and you should see this as an asset. And so for me, it was like, I spoke with the right person. And I think it's important that we speak with right people when it comes to this, because you will have some people that will bring you down, but then you will have people that are cheering for you. And you want to be surrounded by those people, because not everyone will understand. Like my other friend with who I spoke about identity, she just felt like my idea was like odd. She was like, why are you going through that? And I'm like, okay, you know what? You just have to work 10 times harder to get that message across with people that do not understand you. So having open dialogues with trusted people, and I think also finding community, especially when you are a teenager, you do feel like this is a lonely journey, the thoughts that you're having. But when you find communities of people that are similar to you, we call them third culture kids or people with like multiple cultures, you start to thrive around them, and you see the commonalities. Like you will see that a lot of the times people that have multiple cultures, they have friends all over the world. They can speak more than one languages. They eat different kinds of foods. They have a fusion of different kinds of like cuisines. So I think there is beauty in this, but you have to find the right people to celebrate you.
Absolutely. You have to find the right people to celebrate you. You have to find the right people to cultivate,
Yeah,
your identity, and how you want to show up in the world. And I think that's so important, for everybody. It's universally, but specifically, of course, when you're having those struggles. And if you're young, if you talk to the wrong person, it could go,
yeah,
bad quickly.
that's it. That's it. Yeah,
Mhm. And I'm sure you could probably tell a story or two about, when that's happened, or when you've witnessed it before. So we have to be careful. I went to an international school, and prior to that, I grew up in a very um, African American dominated community.
hmm,
And once I got to the international school, I got exposed to so many different cultures. And so it helped me at a young age as a freshman in college to appreciate different cultures. So I really enjoyed that experience, and I'm glad that I had it now in my adulthood.
yeah.
Uh, so we're going to have a little bit of fun before we begin to wrap things up. I like to call this behind the pen rapid fire round.
I love this.
Um, just ask some fun questions.
I love
Um,
this.
what was your favorite comfort food as a child?
Pasta, but it's still pasta. It did not change.
Absolutely. I love pasta.
It's so good.
You ask me what my favorite food is, or my Italian pasta, authentic.
So good.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, so we know you. One of my questions is always, are you a coffee or a tea drinker? But I think we established
Yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
a coffee girl.
That's it. Coffee, coffee for life.
Absolutely. I'm a tea drinker, but every now and again I'll have some coffee. Um, ooh, this is a good one. If someone was going to play the lead role in a movie about your life, who would it be?
If they would play what? They?
The lead role, if there was an actress to play the lead role in a movie about your life, who comes to mind?
Oh gosh. Like an actual actress that would come to in my mind
Uh-huh.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, that's hard. That is so hard. I'm trying to think about an actress that is similar to me, but I cannot think of anyone right now. To if I have to say if
No
I have to
worries.
say the truth. Oh my gosh. You know what? I'm just gonna say the name just because she's my favorite actress. I would
Mm-hmm.
like Angelina Jolie to play the lead role.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. She's a very good actress. Very
Yeah.
good actress. Dream destination.
I would say South Korea.
Mm. Mm-hmm. I think that's on my list too. South Korea. I've been out of the country, but I haven't been traveled extensively. Like I think I've been to a couple islands, not the U.S. islands. Everybody goes to the U.S. to the U.S. islands. Don't count. But I would like to travel a little more extensively. So
Hmm.
absolutely. And we'll wrap it up with two last questions. What's one word that describes the best season of your life?
One word.
One word. One word or phrase. This we could do a phrase as well.
So the word is actually transformation. And I very much embrace that word even going forward. Like I would say that for for a good period of my life, I went through a transformation phase where I really evolved from a personal and professional point of view, and I really worked on myself. I got out of my comfort zone. I did all these things, such as publishing my book, launching my podcast, talking to different podcast shows, and also going to speaking engagement. And this is also something that I want to carry forward going forward. I think as human beings, we are in a continuous work in progress, but we are also in a continuous transformation and evolution to reach our ultimate goal, which is the person that we're meant to be.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. I think this is going to help so many people. This last question. Um, if there was something that you can go back and tell your 8 to 9 year old self, what piece of advice would you give to her?
I think I would definitely say to be unapologetic from a very young age. I think when you are 8 or 9 years old, you can do that. You can do it because you don't care too much. As kids, we don't care about what people will say, and so I would definitely tell her to do that, especially because I started quite late to be unapologetic. I think we should start younger.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Before we close, we've touched on, the surface of so many different topics that would, we could talk for hours about diversity and identity and how it plays in our lives, especially as women. Um, how can viewers connect with you if they want to invite you on a podcast, if they want to talk more with you offline? What are some ways they can connect with you?
Yes, so I have a LinkedIn profile called Urmi Hossain. I have my YouTube channel called Urmi Hossain. And if people want to learn about me or if they want to like connect with me, I also have an Instagram account, which is called Stories Beyond Borders Podcast. That's the account for my own podcast. And they can listen to that also through Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I also have my book available for anyone who wants to purchase it. It's on Amazon and it's called Discovering Your Identity, A Rebirth from Interracial Struggle. And last but not least, the work that I do with women in leadership is also available on our website, which is basically Women in Leadership Foundation Canada. And if they just go to the website and look for Montreal chapter, they will find about myself and the team.
Awesome. Awesome. So a lot of the links and contacts that she mentioned have been scrolling across the bottom of the screen during this whole interview. Also, there's a link, a QR code in the top corner of your screen. You can scan that. That will link you directly to her link tree, where you can find almost everything that she just mentioned at that link tree, and also be able to purchase a copy of her book. I have so enjoyed this conversation tonight. Is there anything, last words of encouragement, empowerment, anything you want to leave our viewers with tonight?
I think my last words of encouragement is do not postpone writing a book until tomorrow if you can do it today.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Well, we have brought another podcast to a close. I've so enjoyed our featured author tonight. You can listen to this podcast, the playback on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms where you can view or listen to podcasts. Again, thank you so much. I've so enjoyed speaking with you tonight. And I'm so glad that we were able to connect. And I look forward to all the things that you have coming up. And I'll definitely be following you from now on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of our viewers. Thank you so much to all of our listeners for tuning in to Behind the Pen. Next week, we will have more authors on our podcast, and you can learn more about Behind the Pen at the vtfcollective.com/Behind the Pen. To everyone watching, thank you so much, and have a good night.